Welcome to Bloody Chapter. Tonight we open the door to a mind that mistook control for clarity and found only echoes staring back. This is the echoes beneath glass. Listen closely, the truth hides in reflection. The echoes beneath glass, Part 1. The first sound I remember is the hum of the city bleeding through my window. Cars whispering below, neon buzzing above, and my own breath trying to match their rhythm. I used to think noise kept me safe. You can't hear your thoughts if something louder is playing. My name is Adrian Cole, 37, data analyst, invisible to most of the world, and I prefer it that way. Numbers don't lie, people do. That's why I work with data. It behaves if you feed it rules. Lately, though, the rules have started to bend. It began 3 months ago, when I moved into a glass tower on the east edge of the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean angles, the kind of apartment that promises a new life. I thought the reflections would make me feel larger. Instead, they multiplied me. At night I'd stare into the glass, watching my own outline ripple against the skyline. Sometimes I swore the reflection lingered half a second too long, as if it were memorizing me. I blamed exhaustion. New job, new apartment, same ghosts. But the feeling didn't fade. I started keeping a journal of reflections. Not emotions, reflections. What light hit the glass? What shapes it caught when the air felt thick? Patterns calm me. Patterns make sense. Then the first message appeared. It was written on the inside of the bathroom mirror, faint letters in condensation after my morning shower. You left the window open. I stood there dripping, staring at the words. I hadn't touched the window. No one had been in the apartment. I wiped the mirror clean, chalked it up to imagination, but my pulse wouldn't settle. That night, I locked every latch and checked the hall cameras twice. The hallway was empty. Yet when I woke at 3 a.m., the window was open a crack, letting in the hum of the city and the smell of rain. The reflection in the glass was darker than the room behind me. Work became background noise. I stopped talking to co-workers. When people spoke, their mouths moved a second late, like badly dubbed film. The only thing that felt real was the mirror. I started to test it. I'd stand in front of it for hours, speaking quietly, "Move if you can hear me." Nothing. Until one night the reflection smiled before I did. I froze, every muscle buzzing. My own face, same eyes, same scar near the chin, but the smile belonged to someone confident, someone free. It held for a full second, then matched me again, perfectly neutral. That's when the whisper began. Not from outside, but from the surface of the glass itself, a vibration I could feel in my teeth. "Control," it said. "You still want control." I laughed. Told myself it was imagination born from insomnia, but the word lodged in my chest like a splinter. Sleep slipped away entirely. I filled the hours with lists, who I saw in the building, what time the elevators ran, when lights in neighboring windows blinked out. One night, a woman's window across the street caught my attention. Not for who she was, I never saw her clearly, but for her routine. Lights on at 8, off at midnight. Curtains drawn halfway, always halfway. The rhythm soothed me. Predictable. Safe. But a week later, her window stayed dark. Then dark again the next. My spreadsheet lost a line of data. That shouldn't have mattered. Yet the whisper in the mirror returned, softer this time. "Find the pattern. Finish it." I didn't understand what finishing meant. I only knew the silence across the street felt wrong, like a skipped heartbeat. By the end of the second week, I'd stopped leaving the apartment. Food deliveries, remote work excuses, everything filtered through screens. My reflection became my only company. Sometimes it would mimic me perfectly. Other times it seemed bored, slow, delayed. Once, when I turned away too quickly, I saw it still facing forward, eyes locked on me. I smashed a glass on the counter to hear something break that wasn't me. The mirror only smiled. I began recording myself at night, aiming a camera toward the bathroom door. When I reviewed the footage, the mirror shimmered at 2:17 a.m., just once, like heat distortion. On the audio track, barely audible under static, a heartbeat. Morning brought police sirens below my window. Another tenant was missing, someone from the 10th floor. I watched flashing lights smear across the rain-slick glass and thought about patterns again. 10 floors. 10 missing. The reflection whispered, 10 fingers. I pressed my palm against the mirror. It was cold, but not lifeless. The surface pulsed once beneath my skin, as if the glass itself exhaled. That's when I saw something impossible. Fingerprints, mine, already on the inside of the mirror. I stopped journaling. The mirror was doing it for me. Messages appeared every few days now. You're getting closer. Then, they don't understand you. Then, you can end the noise. I didn't know if the words were threats or comfort. A week later, my phone buzzed, unknown number. A calm voice said, "Mr. Cole, would like to ask a few questions about your neighbors." Police. I agreed to meet them the next morning, but when dawn came, my reflection looked older, pale, almost translucent. It whispered, "Don't let them in." The knock came right on schedule. 2 officers, polite, tired eyes. They asked routine things. Had I noticed anyone suspicious, heard anything strange? I told them no. My reflection mouthed liar behind their shoulders. When they left, the mirror fogged over and 3 new words formed slowly, as if written by invisible fingers. They're watching too. That night I covered every reflective surface in the apartment. Foil, sheets, paint. Anything to drown the echo. The silence that followed felt like relief. But silence doesn't last. At 3:11 a.m., the covered mirrors began to tap. Soft at first, then rhythmic, like fingers drumming impatiently. I tore the sheet from the largest mirror. My reflection wasn't there. The glass showed only the empty room behind me, but the tapping continued, from inside. When I leaned close, a shadow moved across the other side, matching my outline but reversed, as if it were in my world now, observing me through its own window. Then it spoke clearly for the first time. "Let me out." The Echoes Beneath Glass, Part 2. The words "let me out" stayed on the mirror long after the condensation dried. I sat on the bathroom floor for hours, knees pulled to my chest, waiting for daylight. When it came, I half believed the message would vanish, that sleep deprivation had played a trick. It didn't vanish. The letters had etched faint grooves into the surface, like scratches made from the inside. I told myself, no mirror, no problem. So I dragged an old blanket over it again and spent the day pretending the world outside didn't exist. But the world insisted. Emails piled up from work. Friends texted half concerned, half annoyed. "You ghosted us again." I wrote replies I never sent. Every time my phone screen went black, my reflection looked back, lips moving on its own. That night, the tapping started earlier. 3 quick knocks. Silence. 3 more. Silence. A pulse. I counted the beats until they matched my heartbeat, and that's when the whisper returned, fainter, strained. "You asked for order, Adrian. Order requires balance. You can't cage what you are." The next morning, the police called again. They wanted to clarify a few details. I heard myself agreeing, voice flat, polite. After I hung up, I stared at the phone and wondered whose voice had spoken. The mirror behind me rustled, like fabric shifting, but the blanket didn't move. Something underneath it breathed. I forced myself to lift a corner. Cold air spilled out, metallic and sweet. For a heartbeat, I saw another apartment on the other side, an inverted version of mine, darker, cleaner, everything placed with impossible precision. A figure stood there. Me. Or rather, the version that smiled before I did. It pressed its hand to the glass. "Trade places," it mouthed. I dropped the blanket and stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. The bulb exploded. Darkness swallowed the room except for the thin silver seam along the mirror's edge. When the power returned an hour later, the reflection looked normal again, calm, patient. But I wasn't. I called my manager, said I needed a leave of absence. He started to ask why, then hesitated. "You sound different, Adrian." "I'm fine," I said, though the voice that answered came from somewhere behind me. Days bled together. I barely slept, barely ate. I started hearing other sounds from inside the walls, typing, footsteps, a low hum that mimicked the building's elevator but slower. Sometimes, when I stood by the window, I saw people across the street moving in perfect synchronization, as if choreographed by the same invisible hand. The reflection watched me watch them. "You wanted patterns," it whispered. "You wanted control. You became the pattern." I asked what that meant. It answered with silence. Then, a smile. On the 7th night of the tapping, I couldn't take it anymore. I tore down the blankets, every last cover, until mirrors and windows stared at me from all sides. The city outside blinked and shimmered, multiplied through 100 panes of glass. In every reflection, I stood in a different pose, hands clasped, head tilted, mouth half open in mid-sentence. They weren't delayed anymore, they were independent. "Which one is the real you?" the chorus asked. My throat closed around the question. "I am." They laughed. The sound wasn't cruel, just factual. Not anymore. The knock at the door came again, 3 times, steady, professional. I expected police. It wasn't. A man in a grey suit introduced himself as Dr. Keller. He said he was a building consultant, investigating strange electrical surges linked to reflective interference. The phrase sounded absurd, but something in his tone calmed me. He asked permission to check my apartment's wiring. I nodded. When he reached the bathroom, he stopped. "You've covered this." "Light leaks," I said quickly. He lifted the blanket anyway. His reflection appeared next to mine, and froze mid-motion. Dr. Keller didn't notice. He was looking directly at the glass, eyes wide. "What did you?" The lights flickered. The mirror rippled like water. Then everything went black. When I woke, daylight streamed through the windows. The apartment looked untouched. But Dr. Keller was gone. His briefcase sat on the floor, still open, papers scattered. I searched the entire space, called his name, nothing. Only when I looked into the mirror did I see him, on the other side, mouth open in a silent scream, pressing his palms against the surface. I reached out. The glass was warm. My own reflection smiled between us. I don't remember deciding to leave the apartment, but I found myself on the street hours later, blinking into sunlight. The city looked different, edges too sharp, people moving too smoothly, as if time itself had been edited. Every window I passed reflected not me, but him, the calm version, immaculate, expressionless. Somewhere between one step and the next, I realized I didn't cast a shadow. Back in my apartment, the phone rang constantly. Police, building management, journalists. Apparently, Dr. Keller had never existed in their records. No employee, no license, nothing. But someone had signed my lease renewal in perfect imitation of his handwriting. I stopped answering calls. Instead, I started recording new entries, audio this time. It felt safer to speak than to write. Entry 1. The mirror listens even when covered. Entry 2. The voice changes pitch depending on my heartbeat. Entry 3. If I hum, it hums back. Entry 4. There are more of us than I thought. Tonight, as I speak this final entry, the city outside is silent. Every light in the tower across the street flickered out at once. The only glow comes from the mirror behind me, a faint silver light like moonrise through fog. I see shapes moving in it, hundreds of them, aligned perfectly, each a different version of me. Some wear suits, some pajamas, one still bleeding from a cut I don't remember getting. They are waiting. The reflection, the original, the one who smiled first, steps forward. "You're tired," he says. "I am." "Then rest. We'll keep everything in order." He raises his hand. I raise mine. For the first time, our palms align exactly. The surface softens beneath my touch, cool as breath. And the last thing I see before everything folds into silver light is my reflection walking away from the glass, back into the room. That was the Echoes Beneath Glass, a Bloody Chapter original. Order, control, reflection. How far would you go to silence the noise? If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe, share it, and tell us in the comments.